Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Ivy Astrology. I am so glad you're here. Today, I'm bringing you something a little different, the February 2026 General Cosmic Overview. February 2026 is an absolutely extraordinary month astrologically. We're talking once in a generation transits, cosmic reset moments, and shifts that will define the next several years. Because there's so much happening, and because I've just launched my personal astrology calendars, which I'll tell you about at the end of this video, I've decided to split my February content into two parts. This video is the general cosmic overview. I'm going to walk you through all the major planetary influences affecting everyone in February 2026, regardless of your sign. We'll cover Saturn entering Aries for the first time in 29 years, the solar eclipse in Aquarius, the Saturn-Neptune Conjunction at 0 degrees Aries that hasn't happened, well, in a lot of years, 166 years ago when last Saturn conjunct Neptune, Uranus Stationing Direct, Mercury retrograde in Pisces, and so much more. This is the big picture cosmic weather that's creating this revolutionary energy that we are all feeling. Then, over the next few days, I'll be releasing the individual sign-by-sign video, your personalized forecasts for Aries rising through Pisces rising, showing you exactly how these massive transits activate your specific chart, which houses are being affected, and what this means for your personal life throughout February. I'm currently editing these sign-by-sign videos as we speak, and they'll be posted throughout this week. So make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on so you don't miss your sign. Why am I splitting it this way? Because I want to give you both perspectives. The general overview helps you understand the collective energy, what's happening in the world, in the culture, in the cosmic climate we are all navigating together. And then the personal forecast shows you how to work with the energy in your life specifically. So today we're going big picture. We're looking at the cosmic architecture of February 2026, the transits, the aspects, the degrees, the timing, and what it all means for humanity's evolution. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to show you the personal astrology calendars that I've created, tools that will help you track these transits in your own chart on a daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly basis. These calendars are something I'm incredibly excited about, and I think they're going to revolutionize how you use astrology for practical life planning. But first, let's dive into the cosmic overview for February 2026. Buckle up, beautiful souls. This is going to be a powerful ride. Let's begin. If January 2026 was a preparation month, then February 2026 is the month where the foundations of reality itself begin to shift. And this is not just a way of saying we have astrological events happening this month that literally haven't occurred in our lifetimes, and some that haven't happened in over 160 years. February 2026 is what I call a cosmic reset month. This is the month where the old structures begin to crumble and new paradigms are born. The energy shifts from preparation to initiation, from contemplation to action, from the old world to the new world. Okay, so let's have a look at February from week by week perspective. First week of February, 1st of February to 7th of February, I call it the Awakening and Illumination Week. On February 1st, 2026, we have a full moon in Leo at 13 degrees, called the snow moon. What the moon represents? It's the emotional body and the inner world. The moon governs our emotions, instincts, subconscious patterns, nurturing needs, sense of safety and security, how we process feelings, our relationship with mothering, both being mothered and how we mother others, habits, memory, and our inner child. The moon represents the feminine principle, receptive, intuitive, cyclical, and emotionally responsive rather than rationally directed. The moon's 29.5-day cycle is about the moon moving all through all 12 zodiac signs in approximately 29.5 days, spending only 2.5 days in each sign. This makes the moon the fastest moving planet in astrology, technically a luminary, not a planet. Because the moon moves so quickly, it triggers events and emotions rapidly. What you feel intensely today may shift within 48 hours as the moon changes signs. The moon's swift movement also means it forms aspects or angular relationships to every planet in your chart multiple times per month, creating the ever-changing emotional weather of daily life. Now, every month, the moon completes a cycle from new moon, when the moon is conjunct the sun, new beginnings, planting seeds, to full moon, moon opposite sun, culmination, harvest, a revelation, and back to new moon again. Full moons specifically represent the peak of the lunar cycle, maximum illumination, emotional intensity, and the revelation of what was planned or hidden 2 weeks earlier at the new moon. Full moons bring clarity, sometimes harsh clarity, culmination, project peak, relationship reach turning points, and release, letting go of what's completed or no longer serves. The specific degree where a full moon occurs is significant. It lights up that degree in your chart, bringing attention, energy, and often events to whatever planet or house cusp sits near that degree. This full moon at 13 degrees Leo activates not just Leo themes collectively, but specifically illuminates 13 degrees of fixed signs like Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius in individual charts. If you have planets or points near 13 degrees of these signs, this full moon directly impacts you. What 13-degree Leo means? In astrology, each degree of the zodiac has its own subtle meaning. While this can be debated, 13 degrees of any sign often carries themes of transformation and upheaval, followed by breakthrough. In Leo specifically, 13 degrees emphasizes creative power, dramatic expression, and the courage to be seen even when vulnerable. This particular degree is associated with taking center stage and claiming your creative authority. So, the emotional quality and themes of each full moon depend entirely on which sign it occupies. Full moon in Leo, which is a fire sign, is dramatic, creative, expressive, romantic, and concerned with authenticity and recognition. It asks, am I being true to myself? Am I expressing my creative essence? Am I leading from my heart? This is very different from, say, a full moon in Scorpio, which would be about emotional depth, power dynamics and transformation, or a full moon in Pisces, spiritual surrender and compassion. Now, at every full moon, the sun and the moon are in opposition. This is a 100-degree apart. This creates tension between opposing forces. A tension that must be integrated. And apologies, I know you can see here 10 degrees, but the sun, it's actually at 13 degrees Aquarius. So that is where the full moon, it will be at 13 degrees. It's just because the moon moves very fast and you can only see 10 degrees here. Now, going back to our opposition. So the question, in this case, the sun in Aquarius, collective contribution, innovation, detachment, friendship, opposes the moon in Leo, individual expression, personal creativity, heart-centeredness, bromance. The question becomes, how do you honor both your unique creative self and your role in the larger community? Can you be radically individual while still contributing to the collective good? Full moons are famous for bringing emotions to the surface. Whatever you've been suppressing or denying often erupts around the full moon. This isn't because the full moon or the moon makes you emotional. It's because the full moon illuminates what was already there in the shadows. Think of the full moon as the moon show us. As a cosmic flashlight, revealing what's been hidden in your emotional basement. This revelation allows for release and healing. Our emotional needs and how to meet them, our instinctive reactions before the rational mind engages, what makes us feel safe and nurtured, our relationship with our mother or maternal figures, how we nurture others, our habits and patterns, especially subconscious ones, our connection to the past and childhood, and our emotional body wisdom. Full moons specifically bring illumination and clarity. What was hidden becomes visible. Culmination and completion. Situation reached their peak. Emotional intensity and sensitivity. Feelings surface powerfully. Release and letting go. Shedding what's no longer needed. And the integration of opposites. Balancing sun and moon. Masculine and feminine. Conscious and subconscious. This full moon in Leo, it's extraordinarily powerful because it's at 13 degrees Leo, a degree associated with creative power and self-expression, occurs just before Uranus turns direct on February 4th, awakening energy preceding breakthrough, opposes the sun in Aquarius, individual expression versus collective contribution, opens eclipse season energy, preparing us for the solar eclipse on February 17th. Leo, it's ruled by the sun and governs creativity, self-expression, romance, children, leadership, authenticity, joy, and living from the heart. This full moon asks, are you honoring your creative gifts? Are you leading from love or fear? Are you playing small when you are meant to shine? So you might experience during this full moon sudden clarity about your creative path or life purpose, romantic relationships reaching a turning point, commitment or completion, recognition for your talents or leadership abilities, children or creative projects demanding attention, the need to stop dimming your light to make others comfortable, Joy and celebration if you've been authentic. Crisis if you've been performing. This full moon asks, what would you do if you weren't afraid of being seen? There could be, on the shadow side, some ego drama, attention-seeking behavior, jealousy, creative blocks, romantic disappointment if expectations were unrealistic. At its highest expression, it can bring courageous self-expression, generous leadership, authentic creativity, romantic breakthroughs, stepping into your power with humility and grace. I will go at the end of this video through every sign by sign, to see how this full moon activates your chart. At the end of this video, I will also show, and I do have posted a separate video on YouTube about the personal calendars that I have developed. Go there and see. Look at February 1st and see if you have any planets that activate this full moon for you. It is extremely important, and it will give you the clarity that you need. Now, moving on to February 4th. This is when Uranus turns direct at 27 degrees and 27-28 minutes in Taurus. What Uranus represents? Uranus is the great awakener and revolutionary. Uranus is the planet of revolution, innovation, sudden change, freedom, rebellion, technology, awakening, and liberation. Discovered in 1781 during the Age of Revolutions, Uranus represents the principle of breakthrough, the lightning bolt that shatters old patterns, the sudden insight that charges everything, the revolution that refuses to accept the status quo. Uranus says, there must be another way. Uranus takes approximately 84 years to orbit the Sun, spending about 7 years in each zodiac sign. This means most people never experience a Uranus return, so you would need to live 84 years to do that. But you do experience Uranus's oppositions to its birth position around age 42, the famous middle life crisis years, and its square at ages 21 and 63. These are periods of radical liberation and reinvention. The 7-year journey through each sign marks a collective period of revolution and innovation in that sign's domain. What does it mean when Uranus changes signs? When Uranus moves into a new sign every 7 years, the area of collective revolution shifts. Whatever domain that sign rules becomes the battleground for freedom, innovation, and radical change for the next 7 years. Technology advances in that area, old systems are disrupted, and breakthrough thinking emerges. On a personal level, the house where Uranus transits becomes an area of instability, excitement, and necessary change. You can't maintain the status quo here, even if you want to. Uranus retrogrades for about 5 months every year. When Uranus is retrograde, revolutionary energy turns inward. You contemplate changes, question your relationship with freedom, rethink your values, and prepare internally for the changes you're not yet ready to implement externally. When Uranus stations appears to stop in the sky before changing direction, its energy becomes incredibly intense. It's concentrated in 1 degree for weeks. This is when breakthroughs happen, sudden insights arrive, and the courage to change what's not working surges. Stationing planets don't whisper, they shout. So when Uranus stations at a specific degree, in this case 27 degrees and 28 minutes, Taurus, that degree becomes a hotspot in your chart for months. First during the approach to the station, then during the station itself, and finally during the weeks after, as Uranus slowly picks up speed again. If you have any planet or point in your chart near 27-28 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, you will feel this station personally and intensely. Expect sudden changes, breakthroughs, or disruptions in the area of life that planet represents. And remember, you can use my personal calendars and you can see there exactly what that life area is for you. Now, let's have a look at how Uranus operates in different signs. When Uranus's revolutionary energy expresses differently based on the sign it occupies. In earth signs like Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, Uranus revolutionizes the material world, money, property, work, physical reality. In water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, Uranus disrupts emotional security and intuitive patterns, awakening through feeling. In air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, Uranus' home sign. Uranus innovates ideas, communication, and social structures naturally. And in fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, Uranus amplifies the courage and individual expression, radical authenticity. So Uranus doesn't ask permission to wake you up. It jolts you awake. Where Saturn says, build slowly and carefully, Uranus says, break free now. Where tradition says, this is how it's always been done, Uranus says, watch me do it completely differently. Uranus rules lightning, electricity, sudden accidents, unexpected opportunities, genius insights, and all forms of awakening that cannot be planned or controlled. So what does Uranus show us? Where we need freedom, where we're meant to innovate and break new ground, where we rebel against restriction, where sudden changes awaken us to new possibilities, where we experience breakthroughs and breakdowns, often simultaneously, where we must embrace the unconventional, where technology impacts our lives, and where we become authentically, radically ourselves, regardless of what others think. So, Uranus has been retrograde since September 1st, 2025. During retrograde, Uranus energy turns inward. We contemplate changes, we rethink values, we question stability, and prepare for revolution without yet acting on it externally. The changes we've been mentally preparing for since September now get the green light to manifest in the real world. So when Uranus stations direct, 4th of February, the internal preparation becomes external action. The mental revolution becomes a material revolution. What you've been contemplating changing, change it now. The universe is quite literally saying, go. So now that Uranus is direct, you might finally make the career change you've been contemplating. You might implement new financial strategies or investment approaches. You might make bold decisions about property, living situation, or material resources, launch a business or innovative project, change your relationship with money, work, or physical security, and feel restless and ready to break free from stagnant situation. So, real life translation, if you've been thinking, I need to change XYZ since September 2025, early February is when you get the green light. The universe is literally saying, go. I will go through what Uranus turning direct activates in your chart. I will go sign by sign, especially to understand what are the life areas that Uranus activates. But again, go onto my site, ivyastrology.com. At the end of this video, you will have a separate video explaining how to use the personal calendars, the 3 interconnected personal calendars that are there, and they are going to tell you specifically if any of these aspects that I'm discussing about here are going to impact you personally, and where, in what life areas, and how. So don't miss out. All right, now let's see. So that was February 4th, and that will be throughout the month, the Uranus turning direct energy. Now, through February 2nd and February 6th, we have a Mercury square Uranus. Let's see it like this so that it is better aspect. So Mercury in Aquarius is squaring Uranus in Taurus. It is exact on the February 4th. Same date when Uranus turns direct. What this aspect represents: Mercury, communication, thinking, technology in a tense 19 angle to Uranus, disruption, innovation, sudden change. This creates mental electricity, brilliant insights, but also communication chaos and technology glitches. So you might experience sudden insights and aha moments that change your perspective. Technology breakdowns, software glitches, communication mishaps, unexpected news that disrupts your plans, saying things impulsively that you might regret, brilliant innovative ideas that seem to come from nowhere, restless mind, difficulty concentrating on routine tasks, and arguments arising from speaking uncomfortable truths. So how to work with this energy? Well, maybe back up all important data and documents before February 4th. Write down sudden insights immediately. They're valuable. Think before speaking, especially in professional contexts. Welcome unconventional solutions to old problems, and expect the unexpected in conversations and travel. All right, so let's look at the second week of February now, 8th to 14th of February. This is shifting into mutable energy this week. So first, between February 8th and February 10th, we have Venus this time in Aquarius squaring Uranus in Taurus. So basically all the planets that are in Aquarius in February are going to be squaring, at the later degrees are going to be squaring Uranus. So what this aspect represents: Venus, love, relationship, money, values, beauty. It's in a tense aspect to Uranus, freedom, rebellion, sudden change. So this creates excitement and unpredictability in relationships and finances, but also potential disruption. So in relationships, you might experience sudden attraction to someone unconventional or unexpected, a need for more freedom and space in existing relationships, breakthrough conversations that change relationship dynamics, unexpected breakups or separations if the relationship has been restrictive, exciting new romantic connections that form suddenly, realizations about what you truly love in partnership. In finances, we are here in Taurus, the finance sign, you might experience unexpected expenses or windfalls. That's why it's so important to find out if any of your natal planets are activating this aspect in the sky at this moment in time, and if they are activating from a trine or sextile perspective, so a supportive and a positive aspect, or from a more challenging perspective, and from what house, natal house, and so on. So do check out my personal calendars. Right, so expect unexpected expenses or unexpected windfalls, impulse purchases, especially technology or unusual items. You might experience shifts in what you find valuable or worth spending money on, or opportunities to make money in unconventional ways. We have Taurus here. Now, how to work with this energy? Well, first, welcome excitement and newness, but don't make permanent decisions impulsively. If a relationship ends, trust it wasn't aligned with your authentic path. Express your need for freedom honestly rather than acting out. Try new aesthetics, styles, or creative expressions. Or hold major purchases for a few days to ensure you're not just being impulsive. Now, on February 11, Mercury enters Pisces. Mercury shifts from innovative Aquarius to mystical Pisces and remains in Pisces until April 8th. This is an extended stay period due to the upcoming retrograde. So, Mercury is the messenger and the mental processor. Mercury governs thinking, communication, learning, processing information, short trips, technology, commerce, siblings, and how we perceive and share information. Mercury represents the principle of connection, how we connect ideas in our mind, how we connect with others through communication, and how we move through our immediate environment, gathering and sharing information. Now, Mercury orbits the Sun approximately every 88 days, making it the fastest moving planet in our solar system. Mercury spends about 3 to 4 weeks in each zodiac sign when moving direct. However, Mercury retrogrades 3-4 times per year for about 3 weeks each time, which means Mercury often spends extended time in certain signs, like this Pisces transit lasting from February 11th to April 8th due to the retrograde. Mercury retrograde periods are not disasters. They are natural review cycles for rethinking communication, revisiting plans, and reconnecting with people or projects from the past. When Mercury moves into a new sign, the collective mental filter shifts. How we think, what we talk about, and how we process information changes flavor. The sign Mercury occupies colors of our communication style, learning preferences, and the topics that dominate conversations. On a personal level, Mercury's sign changes. Mercury's sign change shifts which house or area of life becomes the focus of your thinking, learning, and communication. Mercury's movement through the signs is relatively quick, so these shifts happen frequently, about every 3-4 weeks. Mercury rules, or it's most comfortable in Gemini and Virgo. In these signs, Mercury operates at peak efficiency. It's logical, clear, precise, analytical. Mercury is in detriment or uncomfortable or challenged in Sagittarius and Pisces, the signs opposite its own signs. So in Sagittarius, Mercury's detail orientation clashes with big picture philosophy. In Pisces, where Mercury is now entering, Mercury's logical linear thinking dissolves into intuitive, non-linear, emotional, and spiritual processing. This can feel frustrating for those who need precision, but it's beautiful for those seeking creative, empathetic, or spiritual communication. In Pisces, Mercury becomes intuitive rather than logical, poetic rather than precise, empathetic rather than objective. Pisces is a water sign ruled by Neptune, the planet of dreams and spirituality and dissolution of boundaries. When Mercury, the logical mind, enters Pisces, the mystical ocean, the result is a mind that processes information through feeling and intuition rather than facts and analysis. This Mercury placement produces incredible artists, musicians, poets, and mystics, but can struggle with contracts, technical details, and literal communication. So Mercury's expression varies dramatically by sign. In Earth sign, like Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, Mercury is practical, methodical, focused on tangible results. In air signs, Libra, Aquarius, Gemini, its natural element. Mercury is quick, social, idea-oriented, communicative. In fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, Mercury is enthusiastic, direct, visionary, sometimes impatient. And in water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, Mercury processes emotionally and intuitively. Communicates through feeling and thinks in images and metaphors rather than linear logic. So Mercury shows us how we think and process information, our communication style and preferences, how we learn best, our relationship with siblings and neighbors, our immediate environment and short-term distance travel, how we use technology and tools, our nervous system and mental health, how we solve problems and make decisions, and what captures our curiosity and attention. While Mercury is in Pisces from February 11th to April 8th, your thinking becomes more intuitive and less logical, creative and imaginative, empathetic and emotionally intelligent, prone to daydreaming and escapism, connected to spiritual or artistic inspiration, less detail-oriented, more big picture, sometimes confused or forgetful. Practical details get fuzzy. Mercury is great for creative writing, music, art, poetry, spiritual study, dream work, meditation, compassion-based communication, therapy, healing conversation during this time. But it's challenging for contracts and legal documents, detailed analytical work, setting firm boundaries, technical precision, logical debates. Now, important note, Mercury will retrograde in Pisces from February 26th to March 20th, making this an especially dreamy and confusing period. More on this when we get to week 4 of February. And then very soon after, on February 13th, it is a Venus that is moving into Pisces, or better said, romantic Pisces. So, and Venus remains in Pisces until March 10th. Venus is the lover, the artist, the value keeper. We discussed it governs love, relationship, beauty, and aesthetics. Venus has dual rulership. It's both Taurus and Libra. So Venus rules two signs, each representing a different expression of Venusian energy. In Taurus, which is an earth sign, Venus is sensual, material, grounded, concerned with physical beauty, financial security, and tangible pleasures like food, comfort, physical touch, and nature. In Libra, which is an air sign, Venus is social, artistic, intellectual, concerned with relationships, harmony, aesthetics in art and design, and creating balance between self and other. This dual rulership shows that Venus governs both having, like Taurus, what we own, what we value and find pleasurable, and relating, Libra, how we connect, create harmony, and experience love through partnership. Venus's 225-day cycle and a retrograde pattern. So Venus takes approximately 225 days to orbit the Sun, spending about 3 to 4 weeks in most signs when moving direct. Venus retrogrades infrequently, only about every 18 months for approximately 40 days. This makes Venus retrograde periods relatively rare and significant. When Venus does retrograde, it's a time to review relationships, finances, values, and what truly brings pleasure. Venus's orbit also creates a beautiful pentagram pattern when tracked over 8 years, a symbol of sacred geometry associated with Venus since ancient times. So, what it means when Venus changes signs. When Venus moves into a new sign, the collective love language shifts. How we express affection, what we find beautiful, how we relate to others, and what we value changes flavor. The sign Venus occupies colors our relationship dynamics, aesthetic preferences, and spending habits. On a personal level, Venus's sign change shifts which house or area of life becomes the focus of love, pleasure, beauty, and financial matters. These shifts happen relatively frequently, about every 3 to 4 weeks. Why Pisces is special? Because Venus is exalted in Pisces. This is one of Venus's favorite and most powerful placements. Exaltation means a planet functions at its highest, most noble expression in that sign. While Venus rules Taurus and Libra, where it's comfortable and natural, Venus is exalted in Pisces, where it's elevated and transcendent. In Pisces, Venus becomes unconditionally loving, love without conditions, boundaries, or expectations. This is spiritual love, divine love, compassionate love that sees the soul in the beloved beyond their flaws. Venus in Pisces can produce the greatest artists, most devoted lovers, and most compassionate healers, but also the most devastating martyrs and those most prone to romantic illusion. In Pisces, Venus becomes unconditionally loving, deeply romantic, spiritually connected. So Venus shows us what and whom we love, how we express affection and receive love, our aesthetic preferences and sense of beauty, what we value and consider worthwhile, our relationship patterns and attractions, how we handle money and possessions, what brings us pleasure and joy, how we create harmony and balance, our capacity for art and creativity, and our social grace and charm. While Venus is in Pisces, so from February 13th to March 10th, love becomes unconditional, compassionate, and accepting, romantic, dreamy, idealistic, spiritual, or soulfully connected, creative and artistically expressed, willing to sacrifice for others, and emotionally sensitive and intuitive. This is beautiful for falling in love, deepening intimacy, creative collaboration, spiritual connection in relationships, artistic pursuits, music and dance, forgiveness and compassion, seeing the divine in your beloved. But watch out for losing yourself in relationships or martyr complex, rose-colored glasses, not seeing the red flags, escapism through romance, financial confusion or overspending on fantasy, attracting or staying with people who need saving. But real life translation, this is one of the most romantic periods of 2026. If you're in a relationship, reconnect deeply. If you're single, you're magnetic to soulful connections. Create art, make love, dance, and dream together. Now, let's move to the third week of February, starting with 15th to the 21st of February. This is the most significant week in decades. This is the great cosmic reset. And I will start with Saturn entering Aries on February 14th. On February 13th, Saturn leaves Pisces, and on February 14th, it enters Aries, where it will remain until April 12th, 2028. Saturn is the great teacher and timekeeper. Saturn is the planet of structure, discipline, responsibility, time, maturity, authority, limitation, and mastery. In mythology, Saturn, which is Kronos in Greek, was the god of time itself, the force that both creates and destroys, that builds foundations and tests their strength. Saturn represents the principle of reality, what is solid, what endures, what requires effort to build. Saturn takes approximately 29 years to orbit the Sun, spending about 2.5 to 3 years in each zodiac sign. This means that Saturn returns to the same position it occupied at your birth around ages 29 to 30th and 58 to 59. These Saturn returns are major life initiations where you're tested on the lessons Saturn has been teaching you since birth. Passing these tests means stepping into mature adulthood, the first return, or wise elderhood in the second return. When Saturn moves from one sign to another, the collective focus of where we're building structures, facing tests, and developing mastery shifts entirely. The sign Saturn occupies for 2.5 to 3 years becomes an area where humanity as a whole must grow up, face reality, build sustainable systems, and master that sign's lessons through discipline and time. On a personal level, Saturn's sign change marks the end of one area of testing and the beginning of another. Whatever house Saturn enters in your chart will demand serious attention, hard work, and maturation for the next 2.5 years. Now, obviously, Saturn will enter the sign at 0 degree, Aries. This is, well, 0 degrees of any sign, especially the cardinal signs like Aries, is called the critical degree or the world point. It represents pure, undiluted energy of that sign, the birth, the initiation, the absolute beginning. So when a planet, especially a slow-moving outer planet like Saturn, enters 0 degree of a sign, it's like turning the page to a completely new chapter. There's no carryover energy from the previous sign. This is fresh start energy. Saturn at 0 degrees Aries on February 13th, 14th represents the absolute beginning of a new 29-year cycle of Saturnian development with all the raw, pioneering, courageous energy of Aries at its purest. Now, Saturn's expression changes dramatically based on the sign it occupies. Saturn builds material structures easily, for example, if it's in its comfort zone. But in water signs like Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, Saturn must master emotions and intuition, more difficult but deeply transformative. In fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, Saturn must temper and discipline enthusiasm, passion, and spontaneity, channeling fire's energy into lasting achievement rather than burnout. While Saturn's tests can feel restrictive or heavy, Saturn is ultimately the planet that helps us build things that last. Saturn doesn't care about quick fixes or shortcuts. Saturn rewards patience, persistence, and doing things the right way. Whatever Saturn touches becomes real, tangible, and enduring. Saturn transits mark the period in life when we're not just dreaming, we are building. Saturn shows us where we must work hard, where we face tests and limitations, where we develop self-discipline, where we encounter authority, external or internal, where we age and mature, where we build lasting structures, where we face our fears and inadequacies, and ultimately where we achieve mastery through time and dedication. Saturn transits mark major life chapters. The last 2.5 to 3 years. They last 2.5 and 3 years and define entire eras of our development. The house Saturn occupies becomes the area of life where you're going to school, learning hard lessons, building foundations, and ultimately gaining wisdom and authority. So, Saturn in Aries is about learning to be a pioneer, to lead, to initiate, to courageously start something new, even without a map, to fight for what matters, to develop mature independence. Last time Saturn was in Aries, in 1996 to 1999, the world saw the birth of Google and the beginning of the modern internet era, emergence of new leadership in global politics, cultural emphasis on individuality and breaking from tradition, rebellion in culture or rebellion against established norms. This time, expect new leaders emerging, especially those willing to fight for change, pioneering new industries, AI, space, new energy systems, individual courage becoming culturally valued over collective conformity, learning to balance independence with responsibility, discipline applied to innovation and entrepreneurship, the lone wolf archetype gaining respect, and military or defense innovations and restructuring. Personally, Saturn in Aries asks you to develop mature independence, not reactive rebellion. Learn to initiate without waiting for permission. Master your anger and assertiveness. Build something entirely new rather than improve what exists. Develop courageous leadership. Fight for what you believe in with discipline and strategy. And balance self-interest with responsibility to others. On its shadow challenge, you can see selfish ambition, reckless independence, burnout from trying to do everything alone, aggressive leadership, impatience with structure, conflict for conflict's sake. In its highest expression, Saturn will bring courageous pioneering, mature independence, disciplined innovation, warrior wisdom, strategic action, building the future brick by brick with your own hands. And that's why it's so important to understand what are the background energies in the sky. Is Saturn supported by other big players in the sky? All right. I'm only going to touch very shortly on the solar eclipse in Aquarius at 28th degree that happens on February 17th. And the reason for that is because I already gone through very high level through this in my introduction videos. And I will have a special video just to discuss the eclipse because this is really important. But basically, fated events and permanent shifts are going to happen now. And also, this eclipse square Uranus in Taurus. This adds volatility and revolution to an already very charged event, astronomic event. Now, the historic astrological event happening on the 20th of February is Saturn-Neptune perfect conjunction at 0 degrees in Aries. This is a conjunction like happens from Saturn-Neptune, happens in once in 36 years. In Aries, it's once in 166 years. At 0 degrees, it is more than 5,000 years ago. This is extremely rare. It's the most spiritually significant transit of 2026. And okay, let's have a look. What this conjunction represents. Saturn is the structure, the reality, the discipline, time, boundaries, and manifestation, as we just discussed. Neptune represents dreams, spirituality, transcendence, dissolving boundaries, illusion, universal love. 0 degrees Aries. It's the absolute beginning. It's pure initiation energy, birth, courage, pioneering. When Saturn and Neptune meet, dreams become reality or illusions are shattered. At 0 degrees Aries, this happens through courageous action. This conjunction will likely manifest as new spiritual movements based on action, so spiritual warriors, not just meditators. Manifestation of long-held collective visions, what we've dreamed, we now build. Disillusionment with false leaders, followed by authentic new leadership emerging. Technology, making spiritual practices more accessible. AI meditation guides, VR spiritual experiences. Structured spirituality, disciplined practices replacing vague good vibes. Artistic movements that combine structure with transcendence, and dreams requiring brave first steps to manifest. On a personal level, Saturn-Neptune at 0 degrees Aries asks, what have we been dreaming about that now requires your courage to manifest? What vision needs you to take the first step, even without a map? Where must you be the pioneer of your own spiritual evolution? What illusion must be shattered so you can build something real? You might experience a spiritual vision becoming suddenly clear and actionable, or the courage to begin a creative spiritual project you've been dreaming about. Disillusionment with fantasy, followed by commitment to manifesting reality. Spiritual practices becoming more disciplined and structured. Understanding that you must be the one to initiate your dreams. No one else will do it. Seeing where you've been escaping reality, then bravely facing it. Artistic breakthroughs that combine imagination with skill. The shadow manifestations of this can be spiritual disillusionment or loss of faith, seeing clearly that a dream was an illusion, harsh reality checks about creative or spiritual pursuits, feeling lost between what you dreamed and what is actually possible. At its highest expression, this can bring manifestation of your vision through disciplined, courageous action, becoming a spiritual warrior, not a passive, but actively creating the world you have envisioned. Building something beautiful and transcendent through hard work and dedication, or starting a new chapter where your spirituality is lived, not just contemplated. So, some real life examples. You finally start writing the book you've been dreaming about for years. You quit the corporate job and courageously launch the healing practice you've envisioned. You begin a daily spiritual practice with structure and commitment, not just when you feel like it. Or you see clearly that your romantic partner was a fantasy and you have the courage to start over. Or you take the first brave step towards a creative career, trusting your vision even without guarantees. Now, let's have a look at some of the major aspects that are active throughout February 2026. And I'm choosing to talk about those because I do think they are important in the fact that they support some of the changes that are happening this month. There are heavy changes, big changes like Saturn changing signs, and then Neptune changing signs, and not changing signs, but conjuncting Saturn. So throughout the month, but exact on January 20th, Saturn is sextiling Uranus. This is, I'm giving an active window with 5-degree orb. So if I'm looking at that, this has been happening since November 2025, or we've been feeling it, or it's been preparing. Its energies are coming closer and closer now from November 2025, and will continue to be felt until March 2026. Massive support in the sky. Saturn is at So in between 26 to 29 degrees Pisces, and then it moves into Aries from 0 to 1 degree, while Uranus is at 27, 28 degrees Taurus. This is a 60-degree harmonious aspect between Saturn, which is structure, and Uranus, innovation, change, and a revolution. This aspect creates opportunities for sustainable innovation, change that actually works because it's grounded in reality. What this means throughout February: revolutionary ideas can be implemented without practical planning, opportunities to innovate within existing structures, technology advances that are user-friendly and accessible, breakthrough conversations with authority figures, changes to financial systems that actually stick, balancing freedom with responsibility, or updating tradition without destroying what works. Real life translation: this is the perfect backdrop for February's massive changes. Saturn-Uranus sextiles ensures that the revolutionary energy of Uranus direct, solar eclipse, and Saturn entering Aries has enough structure to manifest tangibly rather than just being chaotic. This is perfect for starting innovative businesses with solid business plans, implementing new technology thoughtfully, negotiating changes in work structures, making lifestyle changes that are both exciting and sustainable. And then another beautiful supporting aspect in the sky: Uranus sextile Neptune throughout the month. If this is the active period for this is actually a very long one, because we are talking about very slow moving planets here, both Uranus and Neptune. So an active window for this is 2025 to 2028. Massive support throughout, not just this month, but throughout the year and the following 2 years. Uranus is at 27-degree Taurus, Neptune is at 0-degree Aries on February 2026. This 60-degree harmonious aspect between Uranus, revolution, technology, awakening, and Neptune, spirituality, dream, transcendence, it's a generational aspect that's been building since 2024 and will continue through 2028. So some collective themes. This is about spiritual awakening through technology. So AI meditation, VR, spiritual experiences, revolutionary compassion and humanitarian innovation, dreams of a better future becoming actionable through innovation, environmental mysticism and earth-based spirituality, dissolving financial systems to create more equitable structures, and technology serving transcendence rather than just productivity. Just a few examples. How can we see these manifesting personally for us in February? Sudden spiritual insights, we can have that lead to real world changes, or using technology to support your creative or spiritual practice, unconventional approaches to healing and wellness, financial freedom enabling spiritual pursuits, and innovative artistic expression channeling higher vision. So, some real life examples. You discover a meditation app that transforms your practice, or you use cryptocurrency or new financial tools to support your creative freedom. You have a spiritual awakening that changes your material views or values, or you use AI or new technology to enhance your artistic work or any type of work. You join a community that combines innovation with spiritual values. So, why this matters in February 2026? This Uranus-Neptune sextile creates a harmonious bridge between the revolutionary changes, Saturn entering Aries, Uranus becoming direct, the solar eclipse, which is in a square with Uranus, and the spiritual integration, Neptune in Aries, Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and then we have Sun, Mercury, and Venus entering Pisces. You don't have to choose between material innovation and spiritual evolution. They support each other. It's very, very beautiful. And with this, I have concluded the February 2026 astrological blueprint. To summarize, February 2026, first half, February 1st to 14th, we have a full moon in Leo, which opens the month with creative illumination. Uranus goes direct, activates changes that you've been contemplating. Mercury and Venus square Uranus, expect the unexpected. Planets shift into Pisces, energy becomes more intuitive and flowing. Mid-month peak, February 15 to 21st. Saturn enters Aries, new 29 cycle chapter begins. Solar eclipse in Aquarius brings fated events and sudden shifts. Sun enters Pisces, integration and healing energy. Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries, dreams demand courage, but they materialize. Mercury and Venus trine Jupiter, grace amidst chaos, and then Mars square Uranus, explosive breakthrough potential. Final week, February 22nd to February 28th, Mercury retrograde begins, time to review and integrate. Mars conjunct Venus, romantic and creative magnetism, energy shifts from revolution to integration. The overall vibe, February 2026, is the defining month of 2026, possibly the decade. If you feel like your entire life is transforming, that's because cosmically it is. This is not a month for playing small or staying comfortable. This is a month for courage. Remember, what happens in February 2026 will echo through the rest of the decade. Be brave, be authentic, be ready for magic. Thank you so much for watching the February 2026 Astrology General Overview. If you want to see how these transits affect you personally, I will show you how exactly to navigate your cosmic activations and make the most of your personalized transit insights. Click the link in the description below to watch my complete personal calendar presentation. You will see a full demonstration of how to use the 3 personal calendars that I've created. They are just for you. When you type in your birth date and location, it will automatically calculate your birth chart and unlock your personalized cosmic timing. The link is in the description below. Check it out.